ready for an exciting and informative hour. You excited for that? Oh, you are? Too bad. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have some fun. My name is Eric Bloom, as Brian mentioned. I'm actually a longtime partner of New Horizons, coming up with, I can't believe it, almost 6 years. At the end, we'll talk about 2 or 3 classes that we offer, but save 3 days, beginning the 20th of October, for our 3-day IT MLP certification boot camp. Enough of that. Let me just tell you who I am, and then it's 58 minutes of content. I'm a former CIO, spent about 25 plus years, started as a programmer, worked my way up. I have a couple of books as shown there. Most recent one that I'm really excited about, coming out actually just after the first of the year. It's not available for 2 or 3 months, but called Productivity Driven Success. I'm also a columnist for CIO.com and for IT World. The names of my columns are listed there. I'm a certified professional coach, keynote speaker, and I'm glad to say the past president. For anyone who's ever been president of an association knows what I mean, that the most coveted position on the board is past president of National Speakers Association, New England. Anyway, enough about me and New Horizons. Now it's going to be all about you. What we're going to do over the next hour or so is talk about basically 12 characteristics to help you be a successful IT professional. We'll start with some initial thoughts on it. From there, we'll go through the 12 characteristics, and then we'll end with some final thoughts. I'd like to begin by making a statement. If there's anything that I say in the next hour that you're going to agree with, it's going to be this. Everybody on this webinar is smart. Even Brian over at New Horizons. Sorry, Brian, I had to get one in on you. But anyway, the reason is because you're a technical professional. Now, of course, that could be business analyst, it could be a programmer, it could be a tester, it could be a project manager, but whatever it is. But what happens is being smart is the price of entrance to our career, to our profession. You know, you had to get into a good college, you're working with good companies, you know, you're doing real thought worker type work. So the question then is if everybody working in IT is smart, what's going to differentiate you from all the other smart people when it comes to getting good projects, getting promoted, getting visibility upward, flexibility in regard to the things to work on? What it's going to be is it's not going to be your raw brain power, even though, of course, you know, that will have a certain play for a certain length of time. But particularly, should you want to move up into the management ranks, your ability to get along with people, your ability to communicate and help others, those are the things, you know, beyond the technical hands-on work that will ultimately help define your future professional success. So the 12 characteristics that we're going to be going through, you know, they're not technical. They don't say, oh, you have to be a Java programmer. But they are related to technology. And to achieve professional excellence, basically to move from this, what you're going to find is that you're going to, some of these is shown, you're going to have to move a little bit outside your comfort zone. You know, your comfort zone is those things that you feel comfortable doing. It's your, what I like to call, your default way of getting work done. And lastly, is what you'll see throughout this is that you really want to love what you do. For a couple of reasons. First of all, is that you do it every day. You know, if you're going to be at a company and working hard and doing your best, quite frankly, it might, you know, it should at least be something that you like. You know, and if it's not what you love, then maybe you should try finding something that you can love. I don't mean leave technology. I mean, unless you love being a plumber or you love being a musician or whatever it is, I understand you still have to pay the bills. But the truth is that as you'll see as we go through these, the stronger and the more you're engaged, you really like what you're doing, will come across in your daily work. So let's move to number 1, which is you have to love technology. So the reason that you need to really love technology is because it ends up being something that you're thinking about a lot. You know, that you love seeing the Microsoft ads, and, you know, you like reading the tech journals. you know, is that it's those kind of things that will help to basically strengthen and broaden you as a technical professional. You know, it's funny about this idea of loving what you do and really being engaged. Because what happens is that people get swept up on it and they want a little bit of you. I'll give you an example of this, is entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs that live what they do. You know, they just love it, they're intense, they're purposeful on how to move forward, they know it's going to be a success. You know, it's sort of part of their DNA, and what they're doing also has their DNA contained within it. That's an exciting thing to be part of. You know, I'm going to talk about a movie, actually, that came out last week. I think it came out last weekend. The Steve Jobs movie is that, you know, he didn't win any personality contests, you know, but when it came to his profession, with what he was doing, with the products that he was developing, with the company that he was building, even though, you know, again, he wasn't, you know, I don't mean to pick on those who have passed away, but, you know, he was never known for his, you know, warmth of personality. However, people just flocked to him. Why? Because they wanted their success to go along and parallel his success, but also that there's something that's just engaging about working with someone who truly loves what they do. You know, you don't only see it in big startups, but you can see it in everyday work. You know, you go in and you talk to the client service person who loves doing client service, or you talk to the help desk person who just can't get enough of it. You know, wants to learn more about it. You know, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get on. But you say to him, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" He says, "Oh, I can't wait. I got on the beta list for Windows 10, and can't wait to, you know, bring it down and give it a try." It's that kind of thing. It's if you love what you do, it'll show in the quality of your work, the commitment that you have to the task, because it's, you know, part fun, part job. And lastly, it's your willingness to take on new challenges, which is an important key. Because what happens is that as a new challenge or some new technology comes along, and the boss says, "Hey, I need someone to check out technology X." If you love technology, you're going to be like a kid in a candy store and say, "Yeah, hey, let me do it, let me do it." And then what happens is after a while, that question is no longer asked. The manager will just come to you and say, "Hey, we have a new technology here, or we have check out the new update of the product that you're using, etc." And you then become that go-to person. Next one. Understanding data. You know, it's funny is that one of the things that I suggest to companies in our IT management training program is that they have what I like to call a IT onboarding process. Write this one down because this is a really key to you, just something you can bring back to your firm, you know, just associated with but outside of the topic in general. And in this onboarding process, what I suggest is that, yes, they go through the regular HR stuff, the benefits, the company overview, then two of the senior executives will come in and say how great it is there, and that stuff. But what I suggest to companies is that they do an IT onboarding process. The reason is because if you have a new person in and you teach them about the data flows, the main systems, the naming conventions, the internal processing standards, and things along that line, what it will do is it will immediately incorporate them into what IT is doing. It will reduce their learning curve. It'll let them, so to speak, hit the ground running. Now, why is that? Because if you can understand the flow of data through an organization, back to you now, why this is an attribute. If you can understand the flow of data through an organization, how it gets into the organization initially, where it's saved, how it's processed, who receives what, and then how it flows out the back of the department. So it's basically, you know, sort of input screens, processing and such, and then reports and outputs, etc. Then not only will you have a better understanding of how IT works and how IT is architected, and quite frankly what IT does, but it will also give you a fairly deep understanding of the business unit. Pick any industry, insurance. What happens is if you understand the data as it comes in the door, where's it coming from? It's coming from claims. It's coming from new enrollments. It's coming in. There's a lot of money in insurance company that need to be managed. So that comes in. There's customer service questions and complaints, etc., and so on. That's all the information coming into the complex. Where is it stored? Well, it's going to be stored in patient records, in member records. It's going to be stored in claims adjustment, in the financial systems, etc. And how does it go out? Statements to employees, statements to customers, etc. Well, if you have a deep understanding of that data flow, then you're going to understand how the business works. Also, how the major applications connect to each other inside the system. You know, every system that's out there, every company that's out there, you can count pretty much on one hand their major systems that they have. For example, in asset management, there's the portfolio accounting system, trading system, research system, and a couple of others. So whatever industry you're in, I'm going to be quiet for maybe 5 seconds. And what I want you to think about in your company, what are those 5 main systems that really are the major ones within your firm? Now, let's cut back to number 2 here, data. Is that if you think of it from these major systems, 99% of your company's data is either fed into those systems, is fed from system to system to system, or it goes out from that system to either clients or other follow-up systems. So, for example, your main client database, or whatever it is, whatever your company does, one of the outputs of that is standard reporting that goes out to clients or to the salespeople on what to sell. You take all your major systems; they may all be fed into a data warehouse. So if you're working, for example, on data warehousing and you understand, the flow of data through your organization, not only will you have a better idea of what the data is and how it's used, but where it came from. So very key for you as an IT professional. Next, understanding the business. There's a movement within the IT profession to change its name from information technology to business technology, or some derivation thereof. It's funny. I've been in IT for way more years than I care to admit. Anyway, when I first came into IT, I was in a data processing. In fact, I was a data processing manager. That's what they called IT 30 years ago. And, hanging around within the technology group for a while, instead of being part of part of data processing, I became part of the MIS department, Management Information Systems. And I hung around a whole bunch more years, and all of a sudden I'm reporting to the Information Technology Department. Boy, isn't that exciting? It's same thing, different name. And as time goes forward, it will be the business technology. The reason being is that the concepts that there's no such thing as a technology project, only business projects that require technical support. Even at the CIO level, what happens is at the CIO level, you can't be just chief techie. You have to be someone with a strong business background and strong business knowledge, who happens to understand technology. In fact, to drive this point home, almost 1/3 of the CIOs in this country came from a non-IT background. They were in manufacturing or sales or operations or finance or some other area, who had a very strong understanding of what IT does, but not necessarily how IT does it. So for you, having a deep understanding of the business, particularly if you're in a business-facing role, business analyst, project manager, that kind of stuff. It's a little less so if you're working in the say, for example, on the help desk or within data center operations. It's still important, but it's not quite as important as if you're in those front-end business-related roles. Because if you think about it, the better you understand your user, it's funny, one of the classes that we teach is on internal client service. And one of the things we say, in order to provide great client service to your business users, you have to understand what they do. You have to understand their job. You're not well enough to be able to do it, but you have to have an understanding of what their needs are, what their wants are, what their issues are. Because if you can do this, then you can anticipate what their needs will be. You can move toward being a thought leader in a way that, in a way that allows you to suggest things to them. So let's say, for example, that you're supporting the accounting system, the accounting systems, general ledger, receivables, payables, etc. I just pick on that one because everyone generally would know what those are. And you really like to follow both SAP and Oracle and the other vendors that have products that can be used within finance groups. And in doing so, you find out that, say, Hyperion came up with a great new major release. And you go to the CFO or whoever your major contact is there and say, hey, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but Hyperion came out with a great new release. You know, knowing that you're thinking of updating the budgeting process and budget analysis, I really think it'd be worthwhile for you to take a look at this. Would you like me to set up a vendor demo for you? Now, by doing that, what are you telling, I'm just going to say CFO, but, you know, again, whoever your contact would be there. What are you telling the CFO? You're saying, hey, I'm following the industry where technology and finance meets. I'm also saying is, hey, you know what? I understand what you guys do enough, the group that I'm supporting. I understand you enough that I can begin to think of things that could potentially help you. So let's say that they say, yeah, let's have that Hyperion meeting. And they look at it, and they love it, and they implement it. Guess what? Next time they're saying, gee, I wonder what technology would solve this. Who are they going to call? No, it's not Ghostbusters. But who are they going to call? They're going to call you. Why you? Because you brought a great idea for them in another area. You showed you know technology and the integration of technology into their business, which brings you what? It brings you toward thought leadership. And that thought leadership makes you the go-to person. It makes you the person that that will be primed for promotion. Because as you move up through the management ranks, remember that you will become more strategic and less hands-on tactical. And it's this type of thought leadership and integration and ability to talk to the business, which we'll talk about again, talking to the business, that will help raise your professional brand and potential for promotion. By the way, remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the text box, and Brian will either start asking me at the end, or will just interrupt me, depending on the question and whatever seems best from his perspective. Now, I talked about speaking with business users. All right, how do you do it? Well, the thing you have to be very careful of is to not talk too technical to them. Because, we as techies, we love technology. We dig down and, we can really get down into the, the roots or the guts of what's going on. When very often the business people that we're speaking with don't quite have that ability or, quite frankly, the interest, even if they have the background in it. If someone says to you, hey, how's the project going? And you say, oh, it's really great. We've been working on enhancing our application based on some new Java-based classes that came up with it. We're really, really interested in how we're going to be doing that, blah, blah, blah. And they go, well, all right, well, when's it going to be done? So, you know that look when you get too technical with a business user and sort of their eyes glaze over? All right, you don't want to be there. Because if you lose your audience, then they're not going to ask you other questions because it falls under the category of, hey, way more information than I was interested in. So what you need to do is you want to make the business users feel smart. Everybody wants to feel successful. So what you can do is start at a very high level and say, well, actually, the project is going well. We're doing some things technically to try to speed up the system. And, if you like, I could tell you more on it. And then because it's much, much easier, because if you get more technical with them as they ask questions, you can say, wow, you really understand the tech stuff. I'm really impressed. And, dig it down. to a deeper level with them. Sorry, there's a big announcement in the background. Should be done in a second. But anyway, in 1 second, I'm going to turn that off. Sorry about that. Just shut my office door. Hopefully the building won't burn down. But anyway, is that you could say, instead of saying to the user, oh, wow, you don't understand the technical work that's being done, I'll dumb it down for you a little bit. I'll make it a little bit higher level. Awful thing to say. You're basically insulting them. But if you start at the top with very high level, and you can say, wow, do you have an IT background? You're asking some great questions here. What it's allowing you to do is come basically to the level that works for the user by going down and down and down into the weeds based on their want and willingness and interest in the topic. So it makes them feel successful. Next is what you need to do is whatever your core profession is this is for the individual contributors, and I'll talk to the managers in a sec. If you're an individual contributor or a specialist, you know, a SME, a subject matter expert, so to speak, in a specific role, what you want to do is you want to be a mile deep in your primary technology. Is that you want to know basically everything you can about it. You want to be reading on the topic. You want to be finding out, you know, bugs in the software, average enhancements, next releases that are coming out. You know, whatever it is, you want to become the true expert in that. Why? There's a number of advantages. First of all, is within the IT profession, competence, knowledge, and ability brings respect. Next, you'll have the ability to perform. You know, the ability to perform will be noticed. You know, if all of a sudden, you know, they're saying that something needs to be done, and you said, oh, yeah, you know, we can use this new set of Oracle database features that are in there. You know, wow, we didn't know those were in there. How'd you know that? Well, you know, is that as a DBA, is that, you know, I really try to pay a lot of attention to all of the new stuff that's added in around the edges during the Oracle releases. This one came in, and I think it was version 11, related to enhanced capability and multidimensional database access for reporting. It's like, wow, whoa, where'd that come from? And then what happens is, like if you like your tech, love what you do, but now from another perspective, this then makes you the go-to person. Hey, any technology that you know of that will do X, Y, Z for us? You become that person who becomes the internal resident expert. And with that, is what that will do is very often, in fact, how many people I know, how they were moved into their first management job, is they were the best techie. The manager left. It's, well, who does everyone look to for guidance? Oh, they look to Joe. All right, let's promote Joe to be manager of the department. Particularly if you have a strong business knowledge, as discussed, discussed a couple of slides down. Next is by being a great techie, what that will also do for you, and this is picking on Steve Jobs because his movie came out. Actually, we also, I should say, how I know so much about him is we have a class offered in November, a one-dayer, called The Steve Jobs Way, leadership and innovation you can use. It's really a great class. Wrote it in cooperation with someone in California who wrote a couple of books on it. But anyway, is that one of his concepts, as well as I've seen it myself, as most IT managers will attest, is if you have a great techie in your group, great programmer, great business analyst, great tester, you know, whatever the area is, you know, great data ops person, they will be able to outperform 5 or more average developers. So I'll take the software development perspective. I've seen it myself, and to be honest, I was a pretty good techie. That's what got me into management. Is that if you're a top-line techie, you can outprogram a group of 5 or 6. And not only will it be you know, higher output, it will also be of higher quality with less bugs and extra functionality. It's just the nature of it. So if you can become one of these techies that everybody looks at that says, wow, boy, when we need it to be done right, we go to Joe. Okay? That will be of huge advantage for you professionally. Number 6, working outside or related, working knowledge of related business areas. What I would say to you here is, particularly in today's world, you know, competitive IT world, is you really can't be a one-trick pony. You know, you can, if you're a DBA and you're really, really good, say, application DBA on doing data normalization, things along that line, it would be very worth your while to also learn about production DBAs, what production DBAs do. In other words, how do they monitor disk space? How do they rebuild indexes? You know, all that kind of stuff. If you're a Java developer, you should have an understanding of database design and stored procedures. Why? Because even if you're not writing them, probably, I mean, unless you, well, even in big data, you're pulling it out of big data. But, you know, chances are, whatever you're going to be writing as a programmer, Java, .NET, whatever, is you're going to be using data. Where's that data going to be coming? You're going to be pulling it out of databases, and you're going to be putting them back in databases. Therefore, your ability to write stored procedures, perform database design, makes you a more rounded application developer. Now, even if you're not writing the stored procedures, as if there's a second stored proc group, is proc procedure. You know, a stored proc group is what will happen is that you have a better understanding of how they're writing the procedures. You can take greater advantage of them when you're when you're programming. If you're a business analyst, you should understand enough programming to be dangerous and enough about the business to be dangerous. Because remember, your role in the middle there has always been, for as long as there's been business analysts, is basically to play that intermediary between technology and the business. So if you're working in, say, human resource systems, the deeper you can dig down on human resource systems and understand what they do and how they use it and what really is the flow of applicants, you know, the applicant flow process, and where do they find their people that they want to hire, and so on, the better job that you can do in suggesting enhancements. Now, for both of these groups, it's interesting is that what companies who sell software and what IT groups will say, to the extent possible that it makes sense to, is you should eat your own lunch. What that means is that if you're whatever software you're developing for use within your company, or whether you should be a user of it as well as the developer of it. I'm going to give you an example. I was working with a private client. I did a one-day workshop for them middle of last week. And the company's product, I worked with the internal IT group, but the company itself sold a product. And that product was, I'll just say internet-based. I don't want to say who the client is. And one thing that IT wasn't doing as much as it should have is they weren't using their internet, they weren't using their company's product that heavily internally within their IT shop. They just sort of never got around to it. So one of the things that I suggested to them is I said, hey, you want to be of more value to the internal software engineering group, which, by the way, you are supporting and they are your client, use their software. You know, if you do, you'll be able to be an internal test ground. You'll be able to find errors in the software, make new suggestions in it. Why? Because they're selling it to IT shops. You're an IT shop. You should be using their products. So, you know, what does that do? Is that sort of a little bit beyond it? It ties a little bit to the business. It ties a little bit to here, a little bit more in your technical area. But again, what this comes down to is why are you going to go in and learn more about the technologies that relate to yours? Going back up the list, it's because you love technology. And by loving technology, you're going to want to pick up these things. It's by understanding the data a little bit more. You know, the reason being is that like the Java programmer, maybe you should understand the database that you're pulling stuff out of to generate reporting. Maybe it's because you're understanding from a business analyst perspective, but tying it here. Not this one is topic. On a business management topic, They say that one of the best ways to enhance your own knowledge on a particular topic is to teach it. I'll give you a quick example here. Is that when I was younger, I was big into martial arts. I got my black belt a year or two after I graduated college. Now, when I was preparing for my black belt test, so I was a brown belt with a stripe or two, I don't know, and my instructor said to me, all right, for preparing for your black belt test, what I want you to do for the next couple of months is teach the beginner class, you know, the white belts, the people brand new to karate. And, you know, I said to him, I knew him really well. I've been taking from him for years. I said, yeah, you're just looking at me as cheap labor, right, so that I can teach the, you know, you're not going to be paying me to do it. You know, you just want me to teach it to, you know, give you a little spare change. You don't have to pay the other instructor. He laughed at me and he says, no. He says, all the prospective black belts that come up to me say this. The reason is you will learn more from the white belts in the next couple of months than you'll learn from me. I said, what do you mean? He says, go try it. Having a lot of respect for the guy, I did exactly what he said, and he was right. The reason is I got asked all these questions like, gee, when you throw a punch, why do you hold your hand like this? Or when you're standing before you throw a kick, why is your foot turned in versus turned out? And I had to think about these things and answer these questions. So by both the questions that were asked, the thinking I had to do, and then the answers that I gave, deepened my perspective of what I will say my core technology was at that time, which was martial arts. So you want to learn it better? Teach it. What it also does is that if you're a manager, it will help help your team expand their ability, therefore their productivity, which helps you as a manager. If it's if it's peers that you're teaching or explaining, or new people that are in, then it starts showing your leadership skill and ability. And what both of those will do is they'll also build the loyalty of other people toward you. Just imagine this. If you're the best business analyst in the house and you have all these great tricks on how to use your internal methodology, whether it be sort of waterfall or agile-based or homegrown or whatever you're doing there, if you know exactly the ins and outs of the reports and the way the business people like to see it and who to talk to in the IT department if you have a particular question on something, and you help people with this, there'll be loyalty built from them toward you, which has a number of business advantages. And lastly, what all of this does is that it helps to prepare you for promotion. Why? Because you're showing and demonstrating not only the ability to help other people, but the willingness to do it and the following that creates. Number 8, love to learn. Oh, what's the old joke about IT? Is that the one constant is change. Well, you know what? That's true. Think of the technologies, how they've changed and grown since you've come into technology. I wrote a column about 2 or 3 years ago for IT World called from a marketing perspective, your skill set has a 2-year half-life. What that means is if you took all the knowledge that you have right now and you basically moved into a cave for 2 years and you saw nothing or none of your skills were enhanced, you came out from that cave 2 years from today, you would only be half as marketable as you were 2 years ago. 2 years from now, you will only be half as marketable as you are today. Why? Because what happens? IT megatrends come in, like data transformation, more on mobile, cloud computing, big data. I mean, all of these have ongoing enhancements. If you're supporting the Oracle financials, 2 years from now, they'll have another release or 2 of it out. So you'll be 2 years behind on the releases. Java Beans will be less, and Java Creamer will be bigger, or will come out and be bigger, whatever that might be. All right. So as a result of that, you won't know what the latest trends and technologies are. So therefore, you have to love to learn. Or what's going to happen is you're going to fall ahead professionally, and as time moves forward, you will see your marketability toward new jobs, new projects, etc., begin to erode. Next is you have to be a team player. I love this African proverb here. To go fast, travel alone. to travel far, join with others. Obviously, if you think about it from going on a hike, that makes a lot of sense. You know, you can run from here to there and get there quickly, and you don't have to do a lot of planning. But, you know, if you're doing 2 weeks in the woods, you're probably going to be able to go farther more successfully through teamwork, through help. You know, the last line here, which I love this quote, is professional friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. What that means is that if you're not a team player and you really want to get this other project, yeah, you may be able to lie to your manager to get that particular task, but by doing so, I think the official technical term is piss off half the staff. All right, is what will happen is over time, the people that you work with, you know, they'll take new jobs. You might take a new job. You'll be transferred to a new department. They'll be transferred to a new department. But so a lot of people you were really friends with is that over the years you lose touch with just because business brings people to different places. And then 4 years later from then is you run into a friend that you see, oh, how you been, blah, 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 great to see you again. That's wonderful when that happens. But what happens is if you're not a team player, and the people that you've worked with over the years don't like you, particularly through LinkedIn and just the nature of small industries within IT, is your reputation will get around. People will say, hey, should we hire Joe? Looks like he has a great resume here. And then they'll say, no, you know what, I worked with Joe about 5 years ago. Keep away from the guy, he's a train wreck. Then what will happen is your resume will be thrown in the trash, and that will be an opportunity lost that you never knew existed. So being a team player and building a constituency of people who like you. You know, I was always a team player. I always tried to, have a good relationship and be honest and things with the people I worked with. I just did that for 25 years. Well, you know what? When I started managing mechanics about 7 years ago, do you know what my #1 business asset was? And I didn't even know it. Was the fact that I was nice to people over the past 7 years, and a lot of people there wanted to help me when they heard that I was starting something new. Next, being an outside-the-box thinker. What this does is, creative thinking is a way to solve problems. Is the better that you can solve problems, the more you'll be noticed. Innovative thinking gets you promoted. When there's issues that come up, if you're able to find solutions to those issues and move forward with it, that makes you really an indispensable part of your team. It will build your professional brand. When a problem comes up, and we're going to be talking about this again, but when a problem comes up and you have the ability to be able to find a solution to it, then these are the things that will get you noticed and get you promoted. Number 11. First of all, I love this this graphic. See DOS run DOS run. Anyway, I guess you can tell I'm a techie by background. First time I saw that slide, I said, wow, that graphic, I said, wow, I got to use this. I love it. Of course, I can only use it with technical audiences like you guys. But anyway, see problems as opportunities. So how does this work for you? Well, on the one hand, is the technical opportunities, technical issues where you learn about technology. Think about it. Last time, I'll just take your personal PC. You're installing something and it doesn't work, and you call customer support. And they say, oh, did you go into the settings on button XYZ? And you say, oh, no, I didn't know that button existed. Well, let me show you how it works. Go over here, and then you dig in, and if this happens to you again, this is caused this way. You say, wow, I didn't know that. Well, what does that do? Is that enhances your knowledge. If you're in production support, for example, or you take over someone else's software and there's a problem with it that all of a sudden the softwares are bending and it's not running, then what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to dig in and figure out what happened. In doing that, you're going to learn more about the technology and the products you're managing. You can't really do it. If you can't say, well, you know what, let me break something or let me just change some stuff and see what happens. You can't do that if you're in a production environment. But when the problems occur, you have to roll up your sleeves and dig in and learn it. In the long term, that's a wonderful thing. Also, if you can perform under pressure, oh my God, the system went down. And if you're the person who says, no problem, let's go in, let's figure it out, let's see what's going on. I'll keep you posted. I'll take this one on, see if I can get it figured out. Because what happens is if you can perform under pressure, people will notice. Why? Because when there's problems, there's increased visibility related to whatever that business issue is. And leaders that can work best in tough times, they're the ones who get promoted. And number 12, love the technical challenge. You know, your willingness and ability to solve problems with seemingly undoable technical challenges. Well, how are we going to do this one? Well, I don't know. I don't think that can be done. As opposed to, wow, I bet we can figure out a way to get this thing going. That would be really cool. And what does it do? It broadens your technical knowledge. Why? Because you got to think outside the box. You got to be looking into new ways new things can be done. Because of that, it increases your understanding of the specific technologies you're working with, and it deepens your ability to solve problems. Why? Because you can say after a while, oh yeah, you know, we had a problem like that about a year ago fixing blah, 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 and, you know, I bet we could just modify what we did there. So it's sort of practice and building up a repertoire of things and ways things can be fixed. And like the last slide, is that if you can figure out ways to really embrace and solve technical problems and technical issues as you're, you know, coming up with new ways to do things, you know, new cutting technologies, you have an application in and you find 3 other ways to use it by thinking outside the box, that's a huge value. You know, love of the challenge causes you to think about it on the way home from work. Gee, this is a really different. You ever go home and say, you know what? We got a really interesting technical problem that we're really trying to solve. Blah blah blah. You know, you think about it in the shower when you're walking the dog, sitting in front of the TV, watching, you know, with a pencil and a paper, just sort of drawing out database designs or whatever it is. Those things increase your skill. Shows your interest to your management that you want to succeed, and it really expands your professional brand. And it's your professional brand, not what you think of you, but what others think of you, that will help you be successful. So we've gone through these 12 characteristics. Now, with that, what will happen is that that's going to cause you, every one of these here, causes you to be able to change, or forces you to change. Think about it. You know old technologies, you have to learn new technologies. What is that? That's change. You've been working on accounting systems, and now you, as a business analyst, and you moved to human resource systems to wanting to expand your repertoire of the business areas you know. That's change. Implementing a new technology, moving from software development into cloud implementation, moving from a production DBA to an application DBA, being a software developer who decides to go in and now learn how stored procedures work and understand the nightly production cycle, so when he or she gets called at 2:30 in the morning to fix something, you have a better understanding of what to do. All of those require change. Now, with people now, there are 3 attributes which help people deal well with change. And what they are is, the first is a positive internal dialogue. You know, that's the voice in your head, where you can say, yeah, one thing you can say is, oh my God, we'll never be able to solve this. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. If you have that attitude, you won't be able to solve it. Or if your internal voice is saying to you, wow, this seems like a really interesting opportunity. You know, I bet I can dig into this and, you know, get some good PR with senior management if I can figure out how to make this work. Yeah, you know, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I bet I can do it. I'm going to give it a try. All right, that change that positive internal dialogue will help you gain the understanding that with risk comes reward. The next one is physical and mental energy. What that one is when someone says, oh, God, I just don't have the energy to learn a new way to do my expense report. I'm just too busy. I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. So strong, you know, a strong energy internally, you know, your ability to sort of be like the ever-ready bunny, so to speak, that energy will pay you in dividends when it comes time to learning or changing or growing, which is also changing. And the third one is a tolerance for ambiguity. That can be really, really hard for people in IT. excuse me, the reason is because what do we want to do as IT people? Is we spend our life developing process that will work again and again and again. When things change, whether it's new processes, you're bringing into new technologies, you're replacing old technology, you're inputting a new process, you're moving from waterfall to agile, you're implementing ITIL, whatever it is, all of these are changes in the business place. And the better and more willing you are able to accept those changes because of your positive internal dialogue, your high mental and physical energy, and your tolerance for ambiguity until things get squared away, the easier it will be for you to move forward professionally. You know, these 12 characteristics that I mentioned, you know, they're all within your reach. You know, as Nike says in its ad, the trick is to just do it. From here, what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank you for being with me for almost an hour or so. I hope it's been of value to you. What I'd like you to do is take those 1 or 2 items that really resonated with you over the last hour or so and write them down. There's what I like to call the 72-hour rule, which is do something related to this in the next 72 hours or it will just be a great webinar that you forgot about. From here, please note we have some classes coming up. Oh, I hear that Brian is coming on. Is there a question, Brian?
There's not. I just turned my mic on in case there was, as you're wrapping up.
Okay. Sorry. And anyway, coming up, what we have is on October 20th, 21st, and 22nd, we have a certification boot camp for the IT MLP, which is basically it's these 10 topics. It's drinking through a fire hose on management-related topics. It's 3 days online, doing from the comfort of your own seat or home, as they say, and we'll cover a lot of great material. If you're either a newer manager or would like to be a manager, this is a great program for you. Even if you may have been an IT manager for a little while, and you're saying, "Wow, I could really use some work on virtual teams," or "Wow, data governance has been an issue for us." Well, we're moving toward cloud computing. Expect to get information on all of these coming forward in the next during that 3-day class. The webinar you're on today is a monthly occurrence. Next month's is on November 3rd, and it's called How to Become a CIO. And we also have 2 one-day classes coming up, both in December. So sign up now. One is called The Steve Jobs Way, Innovation and Leadership You Can Use. I alluded to this earlier in that what it is that when you pull away the vibrato and sort of his personality, intricacies, is what you end up with, idiosyncrasies rather. What you end up with is some incredible insights, just brilliant stuff related to innovation and leadership. And if you're moving towards governance related to cloud data and big data oversight, is that come and join us for a 1-day class on December 14th. Barring any questions, what I would love to do is I'd just like to thank Brian for being the engineer for today's webinar. This wouldn't have happened without both his assistance and the great support of New Horizons Learning Centers. From there, thank you very much. Have a great day. If you're interested in any of the classes shown here, you can find them on either managermechanics.com or please contact your New Horizons representative. Thank you, and have a good day.
Okay. Thank you a lot, Eric. We really do appreciate it. I don't see any questions coming in, so I just want to thank everyone for their time and for Eric for such a great presentation. And remember, we have another one coming up November 3rd, How to Become a CIO, another great presentation webinar given by Eric. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure that you go and register for that one as well. So thanks a lot, Eric, and everyone have a great rest of your day.